Welcome to this week's episode of Healing Hearts with Michelle Garbett. I'm your host, Michelle. And this week, I wanted to talk to you about overcoming adversity and how overcoming that adversity can actually lead you to a place that you couldn't even imagine, to a life that is filled of your wildest dreams, desires, and just turns out in a way that you never could have expected. And in the sense, in a way that is better than you ever could have expected. Now, the end of our relationship is not always this massive adversity, right? Like I have had, I was going to say many, not many. But when our relationships end, there's different types of relationships. You come out of them in different ways. But I've had two pretty big relationships that were extremely hard for me to get over and were traumatic in the way that they ended or in the way that the relationship had been. They definitely both were toxic relationships. They were unhealthy. There was a level of abuse in both of them, and coming out of those relationships was tough. And at the time, I was like, wow, I don't think I'm going to be able to get over this. This one's really hit me in the heart. This one is going to be tough. And I guess with heartbreak, we have to look at it in the sense that that's how deeply we can feel things. And there's some beauty in that. But then we also know that we have to overcome that heartache and that heartbreak and the struggles that those relationships brought us. And what I wanted to provide for you today is some hope, some belief, and two stories that will show you that it is possible that amazing things can happen after the end of the relationship, that you will get over your heartbreak, that you'll get over the toxicity, the abuse, the unhealthy relationship that you've come out of, the carry-on effect of that, the impact on you, your beliefs, how you're feeling, your worthiness, all of it, your self-esteem, your self-belief, your self-trust. You will overcome all of it, and you will end up in this beautiful place that you didn't even realize was possible. So I'm going to share two stories with you today. And the whole aim of this is to encourage you, to inspire you to keep going, to share a little bit of my story and to give you some hope in knowing that while it might seem really bad now, there's so much waiting for you out there. Things can only get better from here. There is amazing life waiting for you. There is a bright future out there for you. So let's start with my marriage. When that ended, it was that was my first love. It was my first serious long-term relationship. And I went into my marriage thinking that it would last forever. And it didn't. So that was really tough. There was a lot of feelings of failure. Had I given up? Did I try hard enough? Did I provide enough support? And then there was also the financial burden. I came out of that marriage in debt, $20,000 in debt. I had to set up a whole new house, a new home in Australia. Nothing is furnished here. So I had to furnish a whole new place. I had to overcome some of the toxic and unhealthy behaviors that had happened in that relationship that had knocked my self-confidence, my self-belief, my self-esteem. I was in a really bad place. I was depressed after our marriage had ended. I was just not in a good place. It was dark. And I couldn't see a way out. I didn't know that a way out. I didn't know how to deal with anything that I was going through. I felt a lot of shame, especially the circumstances that had happened during the marriage, the place out, the house, the way that we were living. As I look back, was not great. The circumstances that I were in, there were times when we didn't have enough money to buy milk and bread. There was a lot of lying and deceit and promises broken and words thrown around. There was emotional abuse, mental abuse. It was not great. And so in such a dark place, I didn't feel that I was worthy of love. I didn't feel worthy in any sense at all. I was extremely stressed. And yeah, it was a lot. Fast forward 2 years after my marriage had ended, I had been on my first overseas international trip. I'd gone to Paris for 2 weeks. And it really ignited. I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to explore Europe. And it was something that my ex had no interest in doing. And so it was a dream that I put on the back burner and I just gave up on. 2 years after our marriage ended, I was moving to the UK. I was moving to London. I had never lived there before. I had never even been there before. I quit my job. I had no job over there. I was going on a whim. I knew no one in London. My closest friend lived in Paris, and I had another friend who lived in Switzerland. That was it. I knew no one. I was going it alone. And I went there. I booked a hostel for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And that was my accommodation. And that was it. I had no job. Beyond the 2 weeks, nothing. So I had to find a job, find somewhere to live, and get myself sorted. The one bonus with living in the UK is that places are furnished. So bonus on that one. Within 2 weeks, I had found a job. I'd found somewhere to live. And my apartment was pretty good. It was a bed sit in Notting Hill with an ensuite. Didn't have to share a bathroom. I was living in the middle of Notting Hill, which is where I'd always wanted to live. I had sorted myself out a 12-month contract in a job where I was earning good money, and the rest is history. I was able to travel through Europe. I visited so many places that I wanted to see, and my list continued to get longer. My boss liked working with me so much and organized for me to stay on. So I managed to stay on. I now have dual citizenship. I absolutely had no idea when my marriage ended that within 2.5 years, I would be living in the UK. I would have a great job. I would have an amazing place to live. I would be living in the middle of Notting Hill. And I would be connecting with, making so many new friends. And those friendships, some of them are still solid today. And yeah, from the adversity of my marriage and that falling apart came this beautiful opportunity for me to explore somewhere I'd always wanted to explore, to find a job that allowed me to do that. Like it paid for me to be able to travel, to allow me to see all of the things that I wanted to see. It also allowed me to purchase my first property by myself, single person. And yeah, I never could have imagined any of these things happening. Being able to live in the UK and explore Europe to the extent that I did was something that I never dreamed possible when my marriage ended. Like, oh, what an experience. Like I look back on all of those memories. That's why I'm getting emotional, because I absolutely had such a blast. I have so many amazing, magical memories. Traveled to so many beautiful different places, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times. And yeah, I never imagined that would be possible. to have such an amazing experience when my marriage ended. I just did not think that that's where my life would go. Now, there were some other shitty times in London. I did end up dating someone for about 2 years over there who was a notorious cheat the whole way through our relationship. He was also had a gambling addiction. And after our relationship ended, I found out he'd been lying about some pretty big things. Our relationship ended because he cheated with someone in our apartment. So that was, again, a huge knock to my self-confidence, to my self-esteem. I was also going through, my illness was in flare during that relationship. A clear sign that something is wrong. But anyway, ignored that. And I dealt with, there's a lot of mind games in that relationship. So mental abuse, totally unhealthy, totally toxic relationship. And even once the relationship had ended, I dealt with a barrage of abusive text messages. And yeah, it wasn't nice. And I, having come out of some serious health issues with my IBD, I was in hospital twice during that 2-year period. So I also didn't have the strength to deal with someone like that. All my energy was going on trying to make myself healthy. So as that relationship ended, again, there's a lot of judgment on myself and how could you be so stupid and you knew and didn't trust your intuition. And again, just, someone's treating you like shit. So your self-esteem and your self-confidence and your self-worth, all of those things go down the toilet. And then having to deal with his barrage of abuse afterwards, not great. So again, that was a pretty low point. And again, from that came this amazing opportunity, right? A year later, I'm going to say probably about 18 months, I purchased my first property. And I purchased a 2-bedroom flat in London. Solo. No help from anybody. Never would have thought that would have happened. Never thought that I'd be in a position to buy a property for myself. So again, from this position of adversity came this amazing opportunity. The world opened up. It delivered. I bought my first property by myself, solo. So, when we come out of these situations where we think our heart is broken, they're like, how am I going to get through this? Oh my God, this is so painful. It hurts. I'm not going to be able to survive. Nothing's going to work out for me. I am proof that twice, things turned around so much for me coming out of those adverse situations, coming out of those situations that were toxic, those relationships that were toxic, unhealthy, and abusive to various levels. So many magical things that I couldn't even thought possible. I never thought that I'd be able to buy a property by myself as a single person. I never thought that I would have the money to do that. I'm currently living in the 3rd property that I've purchased for myself. Yes, it's been a process of I sold, I bought something else, I sold, I bought something else, and blah, blah, blah. But I have been able to do that by myself without any help from anyone else 3 times. 3 times. So you, my love, who is going through this horrible experience of your breakup, of your broken heart, of feeling like your world has ended because this relationship has ended, let me tell you, there are so many opportunities and possibilities that you can't even imagine that are available to you. This is your springboard. This is your launch pad into that amazing, beautiful, bright future that you dream of, or even better. Things that are going to happen that you didn't even think were possible. What you got to do is trust and believe. No, use this as hope to spark your inspiration, for you to know that you will get through this, you will get over this, and the best is yet to come. And that's it. It's my story. That's what I wanted to share with you today. How did I do it? There was some work, and that's what I help my clients go through. But you will get through it. It's a process of feeling your emotions and letting yourself heal and understand that you are so worthy, you are so deserving, building your self-esteem, your self-belief, your self-trust, and knowing that you have the ability for such greatness within you. It is possible. You can have that amazing future that you want. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. There's no real tips. It's you will work through it. You will move through this dark period, this period of pain, of hurt, and there is beauty waiting for you. Today's episode is all about just inspiring you and giving you hope to keep moving forward, because you are worthy, you are deserving, and there is a beautiful, bright future out there for you. And that's it. Until next week's episode, I'll talk to you later. If you feel anyone would be inspired by this, please share this episode. Don't forget to like, to subscribe. You can follow me over on socials. Instagram, Michelle_Garbett. And until next week, ciao for now.